Hi there team, Coach Alexa here. I'm going to do a little bit of a series of videos on what to do as we age as runners. So there are a few changes that go on in the body that mean that we are going to change in terms of our performance and in terms of how we ought to be training as we get older. I'll be setting out a few of the reasons why those changes are useful and what those kind of physiological changes are in this video, and then we'll go into a bit more detail about what to do in different areas in future posts. I guess the most important scene set thing to say is that, as always, there are key things that we can do to help our running that will help across the board, and perhaps we can get away with ignoring them a little bit more easily when we're younger. So that is training well, so having a training program that is adapted for you or that you've learnt to adapt and it is personalised to you, making sure you prioritise rest and recovery, making sure you have a purpose behind each session and you're really training specific things in specific runs. The positive impact of strength training will reduce injury risk and improve performance across the board, whatever you age, but it becomes increasingly important or increasingly noticeable if you don't do it as you get older. And of course, nutrition. So making sure you're eating well, you've got a nutrient-rich diet, you're getting all of the things into your body that it needs to fuel your performance and to recover and repair afterwards, again, becomes increasingly important as we get older. So let's have a think about some of these changes then that take place as we get older that might start to impact our running. So the first one is the changes to our VO2 max. So VO2 max is a measurement effectively of how efficiently we use and manage to process oxygen. So how quickly and efficiently can we get the oxygen in through our mouth, through our heart, lungs, circulatory system to our muscles and to be used. So it's a great measurement of cardiovascular fitness. VO2 max declines by about 10% every decade from the age of 30. So that's one of the reasons, if you've ever looked into heart rate zones, why heart rate zone calculations have age as a factor in that calculation. The maximum heart rate value that you can achieve does gradually drop as you get older, as your heart gets less efficient at pumping at that maximum capacity. Your heart rate zones drop gradually and your VO2 max drops. However, that VO2 max dropping will reduce the amount of oxygen that your body can get to the muscles at a maximum value. But it doesn't make any changes, there's no age-related changes to how efficiently your muscles can use that oxygen. So we can kind of, use that as a little bit of a workaround to mitigate some of that drop in VO2 max as you get older. The next one to think about, I guess, is how much of an impact will that actually have? So yes, if you're training and racing at 100% of your physiological limits, so you're an elite level athlete, then yes, you will notice that drop off a little bit more probably than us mere mortals. So, in football, you'll perhaps notice that the much faster players on the ball will drop off in performance, probably around sometimes as early as their late 20s and into their 30s, definitely. But again, for us mere mortals that aren't training and racing at 100% of our physiological limits, there's a lot of other stuff that we could do to improve that may completely mitigate or at least partially mitigate some of those age-related changes. So always bear that one in mind. The other thing a few other things to bear in mind, the next one of which is that we do reduce our muscle mass gradually as we get older. So the muscle overall total amount of muscle that we have in our body to move us around will gradually reduce. That is the main reason why when people get into their, perhaps 80s, 90s and beyond, the risk of trips and falls is higher because we have so much of a reduction in muscle mass that it really is a bit more of a struggle and a challenge to, move around efficiently still. And that means, though, there is going to be an impact on performance, clearly, but it means strength training, right, is your absolute friend as you get older to try and minimise or even potentially look at slightly reversing that drop-off in muscle mass. There's no scientific consensus on the mechanism for why but there is a body of evidence to show that our healing time reduces as we age as well. So that's one to bear in mind for running as well, because it's a similar, very similar set of processes that we use for healing our body as we use for repairing and recovering post-training session. So when you go out for a tough training session, you get that kind of little muscle soreness afterwards. Your body goes in, it repairs these little micro tears that have appeared in your muscle during the training session, and it repairs them a little bit stronger. And that's part of the process of how we get fitter. So that slightly longer healing time will be impacting that recovery process and the adaptation to our training. The other big area that is going to be impacting us as we get older are our hormonal changes. So much more noticeable and has much of a wider ranging and bigger impact on our training for women is the menopause. Much more sudden and unpredictable changes in our hormone levels. And there's quite a different, you've got quite a different kind of body in the way it functions pre-menopause to post. So I'll do a whole sort of separate video on that topic. So men do have those changes in their hormone levels as well, but it is a lot more gradual. So no more than 2% of drop in testosterone each year from around your late 30s to early 40s onwards. But it's still something to bear in mind a little, because testosterone is a performance enhancing drug, and as those levels gradually drop, the performance potential for your running and your training will gradually reduce as well. So those are some of the mechanisms as why, we might need to think differently and approach our training and our running differently as we age. As I say, I'll do separate videos going forward over the next few weeks to delve into some of those a little bit more detail, and also to pick up on, right, okay, what do we do about it? Happy running.